Good morning, everybody. I'm Nicola Barrett, Chief Corporate Learning Officer at Emory Executive Education at Goizueta Business School. And it's my pleasure to welcome you here to Business Over Breakfast today. Today's topic is another in our focus on how technologies and our adoption of them during the pandemic have changed how we live and work. Today, we're exploring social interactions 2.0, technologies for future work and life. And I think that's particularly relevant in today's society. By nature, as humans, we are very social animals, yet our interactions have evolved significantly as technologies have advanced with the advent of smart devices, so online social networks, AR, VR, etc. Certainly, the interactions I have with my teenage boys are very different to the ones I had as a teenager with my parents. It's unlikely that I ever have a conversation without one of them at least having a device in their hands. And during the pandemic, we all changed how we connected and how we use technology. And so the question that we've been exploring over the last month or so in different ways is, during the next year or so, next few years, how are we going to be using this technology and will our behaviors change? Helping us today to explore this topic is our Associate Professor of Information Systems and Operations Management, Rajiv Garg. Rajiv's research spans really four broad areas: the diffusion of digital content across networks, digital marketing strategies for social and mobile commerce, the role of digital technologies in labor markets and entrepreneurship, and the identification of the business value of data streams generated by digital technologies, think blockchain, NFTs, Internet of Things, etc. So with his research, Rajiv has helped the sort of gamut of not-for-profits, for-profits, government organizations to develop data, digital strategies, and public policies. So I'm very excited to have Rajiv join us today. As usual, Rajiv's going to spend about 35 minutes sharing his insights and perspectives on this topic. And then we will reserve time. We've got time reserved at the end for you all to answer questions. So please put those in the Q&A box and we'll do our best to get those to him. And if you've got any comments along the way, please put them into chat as well. If these topics are of interest to you, I did want to just alert you to a couple of courses that we have coming up in August. One is the AI and Machine Learning for Business Executives. So that's a short course with Jesse Boxstead, thinking about how do you use these technologies in a business setting. And we've also got the extended learning courses that are coming up again starting in August on a range of topics. These are the ones where you're sitting alongside an evening or executive MBA and doing a deeper dive into certain areas. There are several of them in the finance area and a number of them in the marketing area as well. So please check those out on our website. And so Rajiv, over to you.
Thank you, Nicola. That's a very generous introduction. And then thank you all for joining today's session. So I'm going to talk about social interactions. We have seen all kinds of technologies that is going to define the future of work in our life. But I'm going to focus more specifically on social interactions, collaborations in the near future. And Nicola has told me to keep it less nerdy with all the math and etc. to a minimum. So I'm going to try to give you a general sense on why the collaborations and social interactions are important. But before we begin, let's take a quick 2-minute poll on what you think. Do you have work-life balance now? And what do you miss most from the pre-pandemic work? I'm sharing the link on the chat window as well. And I will share the results on the screen. So you will see on Mentimeter the first slide where you can respond to the first question. And in a minute or so, I'm going to switch to the second slide, which is the second question: what do you miss most from the pre-pandemic work? All right. I'm going to switch the question to the second question on the Mentimeter. If you're on the same page, you will see the second question pop up now. So currently we are seeing, a third of the people are saying they don't have the work-life balance, whereas 2/3 have the work-life balance, which is awesome. Moving on to the second question. And the interactions is precisely what my focus is. Like the pre-pandemic, we used to have these random ad hoc interactions, like after the meeting, we come out of the meeting, go hang out, get a coffee with friends and so forth, or just like continue some off-topic conversations. All right, and the results, as you can see from the screen, I mean, from most of, Rochi, I love the traffic. Like, traffic is definitely, we did not miss from the pre-pandemic time. But I mean, so the commute traffic is something definitely we don't miss, but the interactions is something that we tend to miss from the pre-pandemic time for most part. Now, coming back to the slides. So we had, or I mean, most of us even today have the work-life balance. But over time, this last 2 years, the technology and the pandemic has pushed our work and life together so much that they overlap significantly. The boundaries are thinning, right? So we have moved our work, everything online. 85% of Americans say they go online daily, with 31% staying online almost constantly throughout the day. This massive use of internet has resulted in diminishing the work-life boundaries, cognitive overload, and reduced social connections and interactions. Now, when we talk about the diminishing boundaries, I mean, it has increased the fatigue caused by the increased number of meetings, breaks that we were using, we currently have. We're actually trying to catch up on other tasks at home, like if we are working from home. If we are taking a break from home, then we're quickly switching over to emails, like catching up on our work. So our mundane experiences are spilling over between the life and our work, which is essentially also reducing the meaningful interactions that we're having. Limited time for casual conversations before and after meeting, and reducing the number of friends for those meaningful connections. If we referring the Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow book, we are continuously now thinking fast. We are shifting from one task to the other, almost constantly nonstop. There's no time to slow down and smell the roses anymore. So we have, as we are more digitally embedded, more ingrained into this technology, we have an illusion of objectivity, but we truly are not objective. We assume that we're looking for new information, we're finding new information, we're able to rationalize, but we're essentially still confirming our biases, are relying on something that we already believe that this is the way we want to go. And this is what we found in our research that we published last year. In addition to these diminishing boundaries, we are seeing an increased fatigue and negativity in employees, in people at our workplace. We are seeing increased mental issues. A third of the millennials and Gen Zs have reported to take time off due to work stress and anxiety. There are polls that shows working from home has meant many Americans feeling lonely and isolated, right? And this is because of our connections are reduced. Gallup asked the question in their survey for best companies to work for, do you have a best friend at work? They asked this question. This is important because it kept us hooked to our workplace, because we had someone who would always listen to us, because going to work had some fun element. Sometimes we would look forward to the Mondays, to be at work, to hang out, to go for lunch, get coffee with friends. But if you think about, if we had a best friend at work in 2019, do we still have that person as our best friend at work now? Have they changed? If that person has moved on, we have moved on, do we have another best friend that we can call at work? The chances are no, because for making those connections, we need rich interactions, with this Zoom does not, or these current technologies do not provide. So we are seeing, because of this online shift, the diminishing boundaries because of cognitive overload, reduced connections, there's a detachment from the workplace. 44% of employees are seeking new jobs. 4.3 million people quit their jobs in just January 2022, right? So work has moved online. As a result, the switching costs have reduced. All we're doing is switching laptop from one company to the other company. Many workers seek independence because of the gig culture. They're saying, look, I don't want to be an employee anymore. I want to do my own thing. So as a result, there's no attachment to work. So moving forward, we need to have social elements to enhance collaboration and workplace lock-in. And this is exactly what we're going to focus on for the next few minutes. The work, as we see it, as we define, is a combination of the task and collaboration. This pandemic, the technology innovation during this time has disrupted how we perform, how we contribute for our organization. So the task could be completed most of the time remotely because of our individual contributions. They could be shifted to an online setting, to a remote setting, but the collaborations cannot. Collaborations need interaction with people to be more involved, ability to interact effectively with larger group of people, ability to interact closely with smaller group of people. We need engagement with systems to be smarter. We need AI-enabled engagements because there's already so much information overload. We need to optimize what we are communicating, who we are talking to, and what content we are generating. The systems need to better understand our needs. We need gamification to keep our attention in the current modern technological systems. Our attention span with technology has drastically dropped over time, right? Making things slow over time to process and absorb. So future work and life needs technology that enables these interactions, these engagements, and these gamifications. So if we talk about just the interactions, the first step, as our work and life evolves, so does the social interactions with people and systems around us. Humans are social animals who need meaningful interactions, endorse recognitions, relationships, social contentment, and new connections. Thus, technology must enable creation of new social connections and creating smarter interactions between people. We can add social connections. We can add, the connections could be classified into strong ties or weak ties. We can add as many weak ties. We can go to Twitter. We can follow hundreds of different friends or people. We can go to LinkedIn, and everyone that LinkedIn is recommended have thousands of different connections. But that's not the point, right? So we need to have more strong ties. Strong ties are defined as ties that constitute a base of trust that can reduce resistance and provide comfort in the face of uncertainty, as mentioned by David Cracker in 2003, right? But I'm not saying that we go out there and try to make these friends on these online platforms, because Dunbar said, look, you can only have 150 people to have stable social relationship because of your cognitive limit. right? So yes, we need more friends. We need technology to enable creation of these meaningful connections, but only up to so much. This is the reason why we have seen shift of social networks over time. We've seen, I mean, we've used MySpace, Friendster, Orkut, Google Plus, I mean, so many more. And I mean, we moved to Facebook. Now the younger generation has moved to Snapchat, then Instagram, and then so forth. Anytime a new social network comes in, Clubhouse came, we quickly switched there, right? But as we kept getting more and more friends, we moved away because we cannot keep up with that group. We don't care about a larger group of people when we're trying to spend time. We can have these platforms need to have some element for managing weak ties. Weak ties are people we're connected to but don't know very well. They play an important role in diffusion and discovery of information. But at the same time, again, I'm not saying that we need to have thousands of connections on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, etc. Because what we found in the context of job search and labor market, a friend of the world is no friend of mine, which actually came from Misanthrope by Molière, who said the friend of the whole human race is not to my liking in the play in 1966. So which we found in context of LinkedIn, that if you have too many friends and you try to find information, get recommendation from those people, they see that you're connected with someone else who may be a better person to help you. And as a result, I mean, that perception pushes away the help. So you need the new technologies, new platforms to enable social connection, both the strong and weak, but where you're able to invest time, where you're able to work with them. I mean, build the relationship with those stronger connections, so volunteer time to have reciprocation with the community to help each other out. So, and the goal is not to just have connections, but friends with meaningful interactions. Belonging doesn't just come by sticking a lot of people in the same place, in person or virtually. The bond can be and must be developed. So we need to invest time. We need to have positivity in those connections. We want relationships that make us feel happy or that increase our positive emotions. We need consistency so we are able to communicate with these people over and over again, right? It's not a one-shot thing that, hey, I made a friend, I went to this event, and now I'm connected with this person forever. We need also vulnerability. So what we want most from each other is feel accepted and valued, which only happens when we feel like that they know us. We need to ultimately feel seen by each other. So we don't need to be someone else, be presented as someone different. Dysmorphia is going to hurt in the long term, right? So we need to create positive and social spaces to interact and engage with others at work. Metaverse provides such immersive communities. So when we talk about the metaverse, the immersive environments, the interaction of the AI and metaverse enables smarter interactions, and that's happening right now. I mean, AI can auto-complete sentences. You are in a metaverse environment. You can start typing, you can start speaking, it can automatically complete, so you can actually communicate with people around you. It can generate messages for you. I mean, AI can, there are bots where you need help, directions, guidance, recommendations, you can communicate with these bots. I mean, there's anthropomorphism that is happening where these bots act very human-like. So we need, or AI also enables sensory experiences. So by sensory experiences, I mean, the AI enables anthropomorphism, which is human-like interactions for visual immersion. The avatars we're creating, their actions, their images, the three-dimensional, they are very human-like now. There are companies like Unity are working on making these movements of people human-like as well. So when you see another person in the VR space, you will see them, who they are, how they look, as in the real world, like as part of their digital human project with Unity. We can also have the haptic feedback. So right now we had gloves where we can get feedback on our hands only. Like if we are touching an object, on one of my paper from 22 years ago, where we create a virtual museum where you can go feel the object, like feel, but you get the haptic feedback. This is the shape of a kettle or a vase or a painting or something like that. But now companies are developing full body haptic feedback, where you wear a suit and you're getting impressions. If you're hugging, you can feel that you are hugging somebody because of the pressure that you feel, right? In gamification games, it's actually a lot of exciting thing that people are building around it on how you can interact with the immersive virtual environments and feel those things. We can also have the sensory interaction with the voice. Systems can communicate with you in a voice you may engage with. I have a short video clip here that I'd like to show. This is something we are working on research, and we've almost finished this work. So here's a 10-15-second video. For some reason, it's not working.
Carol, I am a technological superintelligence. I can control every dollar and every machine on the planet.
I know that voice. Is this James Corden?
I'm not James Corden, Carol. My analysis showed that hearing James Corden's voice would calm you.
And that's precisely what we are working on, what we have done. We've taken different voices. We have understood what voice can help engage people if we want to engage them for some hedonic information products or for utilitarian situation. And these could be, over time, developed to make much, much better. We can create synthetic voice for increased engagement in these immersive spaces. I mean, using machines, we came up with there 4 different types of voice: seductive, motivational, ostentatious, and authoritative. We did the analysis for over 1,000 different voices, and every voice falls under one of these 4 buckets. So thus, social interaction then needs also content. We can create these sensory experiences with the voice, with visuals. I love that James Corden counts me, Allison. So his voice is awesome. Like the night show is pretty amazing. Anyway, so we need the content to actually create those experiences as well. So this is where we come with engagement. So while social interactions will dominate the immersive spaces like Metaverse, content will be necessary to keep the users engaged. Work will have content for collaboration. Personal life will have content to bring people together. So content will be generated with both humans and AI moving forward, right? So I mean, even today, AI is generating movie scripts like Sunspring. AI is generating art that could appeal to people. AI is helping design products itself, more efficient product. I mean, in my own research, we are using machine learning to prescribe personality for engineering viral content. So taking a quick look, what we did is we analyzed about 20,000 videos on YouTube and analyzed all the text that was being said in those videos. And what we found is any video that has a high openness, high extroversion, high neuroticism, and low consensuousness and low agreeableness. So think about it, what kind of content? It's a neurotic content that is very extroverted, kind of speaking or expressions that tends to be viral, that could be viral. Whereas if we try to make a content that is consensuous, caring of others, that is agreeable by the masses, but is also a little bit introverted, that content is the weakest in performance online. So we can then engineer these features for viral content development. We can, as a result, know what people on these metaverse and immersive environments would like, and we can create content for them to get them and keep them engaged. We also did a similar study in terms of products, where we looked at different products, their text associated with them, and identified features around the different senses. If there is a feeling for element for the product, so there is a look element to the product, so there is a fit element to the product. I mean, electronics may have the size of a television, maybe as part of a fit, but look, maybe it's a 4K HD or a very slim body, OLED, etc. I mean, feeling could be just the sound of it. Like, do I like this is a curved TV versus flat screen, etc. Right? So we extracted the text to cluster them across these three attributes, and then we are able to use generative AI to define what features to go in a product, to design a product for a channel. If I want to sell something, maybe a jacket on in a store, in a physical store, I now know what product features need to go. If I want something for the immersive environment, I know what features I need to create for that environment to, as a result, to engage people more. So thus, content should be able to engage consistently through gamification as well. So we are creating rich content. Now we need to gamify. So, I mean, there is an MD mechanics dynamic emotion framework where it says we need the mechanics, we need the immersion and interaction with the content in the environment, which is what we've been talking about. We need dynamic, we need shifting the content novelty in goals. We can't stay with what we see right now. We need to, the target for people, the goals for people has to keep changing. If we think about a collaborative effort, if a project or a task, we need to use in the workplace, if we keep moving that target, it might get interesting. So it may keep us engaged in that platform. We need to have the emotions. We need sensory feedback. We need to cater to human emotions, both through touch, visuals, and audio. That's the integrated mechanics with dynamic content feeding. Our emotions will keep us engaged in this future of work and life.
Hey, Rajiv.
Yes,
hey, Rajiv, could you just take a moment to explain when you say gamification, what all might that encompass? We had a question come in.
Okay, so when I talk about gamification, say in the context, I'm going to take work, for example. So you are trying to build a new product. Let's just say you're designing a new car. Now, if you're designing a new car, the gamification element could be, look, I'm going to change. I'm going to give you a different target. I'm going to see if you can create a new kind of tires or wheels. Can you create a new kind of a steering wheel? Can you maybe add solar panel on the, so essentially you are creating a dynamic goal as you're co-creating products on these immersive environments. and we can get into more of it. I'm just 2 more slides, and no, I'm running out of time. Sorry about that. Come on. So in summary, collaborations, interactions, engagement, gamification will evolve with new platforms and technologies to enable future attachment to work and rebalancing our work life. We need to have this dynamic norm. AI is enabling and standardizing all communication, content, connections around us, but our needs and behaviors will shift, but the new data will relearn our preferences. So as a result, the norms will keep changing over time. We need to keep innovating with these new norms. So as a result, we need to develop systems and processes with the 5 C's in mind. The 5 C's that I mentioned are like choice. So people should have choice. If they're hybrid environments, like you are communicating in person versus online versus immersive, we need to be willing to change. We need to have decentralized and immersive workplaces. These central offices where we work are less likely to be successful in 5-10 years, right? We need connections and interactions. We need positive, consistent, vulnerable connections. We need to mix audio, video, haptics for immersive experiences. We need community and character. We need online personality and identity that reflects us, who we are. And we need content to engage users and gamify responsibilities and tasks. So with that, I hope I'm on time. So I'll take any other questions.
Yeah, so a couple questions that have come in, Rajiv. One of them is, how do you screen for bias in the voice personalization work in terms of what voices are deemed a certain way? So authoritarian, friendly, upset, etc.
That's a great question. So if I understand the question, I'm going to restate. So there's a bias in like understanding people who I'm customizing the voice, but also a voice that I'm training and saying, this is the kind of voice that will be attractive to a person, right? So when we create these voices, like, or actually analyze these voices, we take a very diverse sample data. But again, when I say diverse sample, it also depends on, so our sample is typically mostly celebrities and the AI synthetic voices. So there is already some existing bias in the data itself, although we try to be a little bit more diversified in there. So moving forward to completely be biased, we need a sample that has more diversity in the kind of voices. So we can train a model, we can say, look, these are the kind of voices we can cluster. And again, the voices, we're saying, so yes, there could be a certain gender voice that might be more ostentatious versus maybe, I'm thinking women may be more ostentatious than men who could be more authoritative in the voice, right? So that's the kind of bias we may not be able to break because of the inherent differences, but maybe this ostentatious voice work differently for different kinds of people, right? So we are capturing that biases and are mitigating those biases that exist in targeting one voice for a specific customer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now we've got a rather provocative question, I think, and that is, with the world moving away from human interaction to more machine interaction, how might this actually make the world a better place, especially related to work-life balance?
So again, excellent questions. But think about this. The question is, we are going to interact with machines more. The answer is yes, but machines can only do so much based on our past data. This is where I was talking about the shifting norm, where if the systems learn from our past emails, past messages, and if you send me a message, my phone automatically responds to you knowing how I would respond. That would work as long as it's standardized. But over time, so it is actually in a work-life balance, it's taking away stuff from my mind that could be mundane, that could be more commonplace or more simple, I would say. But if you ask me, the same question on a chat or on a messaging, the AI won't be able to respond. So essentially what we will keep doing is involved in tasks, in question, in collaboration, interactions that are making use of the novelty of our thinking and cognitive stimulation, which will make us more happy, which will give us a work-life balance. The goal at work should be, so there is another presentation that you've seen, Pam, that almost 30% of the jobs could be completely automated. Tasks that we do could be completely automated. So if you're automating everything that could be automated, then we're spending time on something we enjoy, something that is different. So, and as a result, this interactions with machine will give us time to interact with, have more meaningful, more richer interactions with people.
So a quick follow-on to that, Rajiv, is how might we think about this in terms of the developing world? Do you see similar trends happening in the developing world, or is it really going to create an even broader chasm between the haves and the have-nots?
So, a great question, Pam. So, what I've seen in developing world, they actually have adopted technology, mobility faster than the developed countries. The developed countries see so many regulations, so many processes that need to be met. But developing world don't have those bars, those red tapes. I'm on a board of a company in India where we are trying to build an AI-based chatbot where people can get health recommendations directly on their mobile devices using an AI bot. So they don't need to go. So kind of like what we have with the WebMD, the online platform, we're doing like people have in the developing countries, everyone have mobile phones. Everyone have the mobile internet and they love texting. If they are connected, we essentially want to interact with people in the way they are comfortable with. If they're comfortable with texting, you provide those interactions, automations, the AI in those modes of communication, right?
Yeah. Switching gears just a bit, Brian asked, when do you think the metaverse will be widespread in corporate America?
So this is my personal opinion. I believe we're going to see most companies will have a metaverse page or a space within the next 2 years. Because as people start moving, I mean, we all have, the companies have LinkedIn pages, companies have Facebook pages. I mean, they all started because everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. If Gen Zs and millennials, who is going to be defining our 40–50% of the workforce in another 5 years, companies want to move forward to an environment, to a space where those people are more comfortable interacting with, right? So if they want to be ready for them, they have to adopt these metaverse technologies. I mean, if companies like Facebook or Meta, the Microsoft, and a lot of other companies jumping on the metaverse platform, all they need is a space where they can interact with people. Now think about, I mean, don't think of metaverse as something where we really have to just wear the headsets and we are just trying to figure out a way. But in the immersive space, it could be just like, think of Gather. Like if you've seen the Gather town, I had this in my slide somewhere. I mean, it could be just two-dimensional for some organizations, right? Where people go hang out. People are walking around like in a game and connecting with others, communicating with others as if in like a work building, right? The buildings are not going to be there with people. So we are essentially walking around a virtual building. We're seeing people walking or sitting at some place. We're saying hi, right? Because the way we interact with those people is going to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So most companies will have spaces like these, at least in my opinion, within the next 2 years.
So what do you think is different now versus when, I'll say, virtual worlds generally first emerged? I can remember they didn't first emerge in the 2000s, but there was a lot of
Second Life.
Yeah, Second Life and others, right? And there was a lot of talk about everybody's going to be going to virtual worlds for things and looking at how we host conferences. And there were actually conferences being held on Second Life. And so what's different now?
So differences are used in adoption of technology. We are now comfortable. People like when this pandemic started, when we started using Zoom, the IT department of every organization was flooded with calls on how do I use this? How do I make it better? How do I get the most out of this platform? We had that chasm for our technology adoption that we overcame because of this pandemic. And as a result, so we are now in a space where we are like okay with adopting new technology. And that's the key difference. Plus, I mean, technology is becoming faster. Our experiences are a little bit more refined now than previously you need a broadband connection with a high-speed computer to truly walk around and stuff. But now it just, because of the accessibility and adaptability to technology, because of the speed, the computing power, it's just the better experiences, we're more likely to move in. And then that's what's the key difference.
Yeah.
And plus, like, I'm so tempted by that haptic suit. Like, you wear it and I can virtually hug you, Pam, like from here, right?
Yeah. So staying on this topic for one more minute, and then I want to switch gears to a real interesting question we've had come in. So I'm just going to read the question. So one of the current challenges that just seems to be increasing is the increasing tribalization, if you will, among people via political lines and other divisions. How can possibly this be addressed to create more common understanding to work around these challenges? So how might we leverage these virtual worlds in a more positive way instead of creating even more division? That's a toughie.
Yes.
Can you solve world peace for us, Rajiv?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer.
That's okay. I wanted to ask. I thought it was a very thought-provoking question, and one each of us ought to take to heart as we participate. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, let me switch gears then. So I thought this was interesting. It's, especially around your voice personalization commentary. Kadiri writes that this really creates a voice ecosystem. And the question is, can I identify what my voice social interaction needs? Can I monetize my voice?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Say more about that.
But see, so it's a great point. So the NFT that we're talking about, like we're saying, look, there is a NFT NFT is visual, but I'm just saying, assuming there is an IP associated with the voice. So moving forward, every voice, the features of a voice, the technical features could be maybe IP, could be sold as a token. Like, I'm selling you my voice that has these frequencies, etc., and you can use it in your systems. It is very much possible. Now, the question is, there are so many billion people in I don't know the exact, the global population count right now, but everybody has a voice. Everybody has some voice features. Now, if you are a first mover in this space where you are able to sell and monetize the voices, it'll work in the beginning. But over time, as more people start coming in, the value may go down, right? Same thing happens if you think about the logo design for a company. Only some professionals used to do that back in, like for the internet, back in late 90s and so forth. They used to make a lot of money. Now there are logo design pages where there are thousands of people who are designing logos for you for as low as $10, right? So back 25 years ago, we couldn't think that a logo design, which is creative art, you could do in $10. I mean, it takes time, right? So people who moved into that space at that time made more money versus we're making now. So it's just, how many people are providing those services, those solutions, those products for these environments?
So, you are very optimistic about technology and its ability to positively impact, our work, our life, etc. What might derail or disrupt that vision?
Okay, say that again one more time, Pam.
So, you feel very positive that, especially given the research that you do,
right,
that technology obviously is continuing to advance, because we watched how it has exponentially advanced.
Yeah.
But in terms specifically of companies, I don't remember what you said, but most companies will have a metaverse presence in the next couple of years. What might actually cause that not to happen? Might there be something that would derail it or disrupt that, or factors change in our our marketplace, if you will, that might disrupt that?
So there are two elements to it. One is technological maturity. So right now, if you have experienced these virtual headsets, you can work with them for 2 hours, 3 hours. You can't work with them. It's very draining and exhausting if you're using them for 5, 6, 8 hours, right? So the technology still needs to get better because there is some jitteriness or lag in frames that we see. So, but the videos are going to evolve. Like the graphic card GPUs, they're getting better. Right now we're using phones. The phones are going to get better. So technology is one part that has to evolve over these next 2 years for us to make it easier to adopt. The second element is essentially our privacy and the fraud kind of thing, right? As we go to these spaces, we are opening ourselves up to people, to these environments, right? For a good reason. So I'm optimistic because I want people to act rationally, ethically, in a nice way, right? So, but there may be elements where we can extract a lot more information from people for our own personal gains. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, that if my presence here is actually going to hurt me somehow moving forward, I'm going to be reluctant in joining, right?
Yeah.
So it may delay, like until the policies are created, until there are some ways to control those kind of behaviors and actions. But I'm still optimistic. But those are the two reasons why I think it may get delayed.
Yeah. And Rajiv, I'm glad you brought up this idea around privacy and security, because, as you and I have talked previously, those are very big questions to answer, both as individuals and as companies. Can you speak just a little bit about some of those privacy and security elements that folks might want to be thinking about and have top of mind?
So I actually have a paper on privacy, but on the mobile side.
Did you like that plant for you?
So interestingly, what we found is that when you disclose, when any developer, any platform owner discloses that I'm collecting certain data for people, and what kind of data, when I'm letting people make informed choices during the early days, I tend to gain benefit. I tend to attract demand. This is what we have found empirically from the data. But when I said like early on, so when you start getting people on the platform, you need to start disclosing at that same time, right? Or early on within the first 2 months or so for the mobile platform. If you delay it to a later time, the disclosure of what I'm collecting about the people or data that I'm collecting from them, it's actually going to hurt my demand. So what we saw was that, look, disclosures are helping you early on, but as you keep delaying them, the impact goes down and becomes negative over time. So from the privacy point of view, if the contributors, content creators want to maximize the returns, they want to be open to the consumers. They want to say, look, this is what I'm going to do with your data. This is what I'm going to collect on you. And beyond that, you control what you bring to the platform, right? That will attract people early on to the platform.
Yeah, that's interesting that it points in that direction, because I am among those that get so annoyed by all the cookie messages now. But your research shows that it says we collect this information, you have the right to control, blah blah. And I've actually started clicking on those to make sure it's only the required and none others, right? that are activated. If it's a site,
you're one of the rare people, Pam, because most people now, when we see those accept cookies button, the default setting is accept all cookies in most websites. And I can guarantee 90% of people click on accept all cookies. This is when I say guarantee, because I've done that poll in classroom and doing my presentation on the privacy paper. And 90% of people say, I just click accept all. because I'm just tired in reading those disclosures, what they're collecting.
Yeah.
I am happy that they're telling me, but what they're collecting, I don't even pay attention anymore.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. Let me switch gears once again. This question was posed probably, I don't know, at least it was still during your actual presentation portion. So it's going, I think, looking more globally at all of these technologies that are coming in and in some cases replacing the human work where it makes sense and in some cases displacing. But the question is, do you think that these technology advances are one of the reasons why there are so many job openings in the US? That companies are not thinking differently, or maybe the intention was technology isn't moving fast enough in some of these companies and therefore there's a lot of openings. I'm not 100% sure which way the question was intended.
So if I interpret, truly companies are not adopting technologies correctly and efficiently to engage people. And that's why there are so many openings, because people move. Right now, say, for example, I start a job, right? Let's just say I start working for Delta Airlines, right? So Delta, maybe it's a remote work, they're gonna send me a laptop and I'm gonna start working. I will realize maybe in 2, 3, 4 days, 2, 3, 4 weeks, months, whatever, that this is the work that I did not think I would want to do for a long time. I'm going to keep my doors open. I'm going to see what's out there that can use my skill set, but now I want to enjoy that too. Because of the technology, I can find any other position anywhere else in the world, not just the state, city, country, right? And I can move to that position. What the companies need to do is essentially, that's what my focus was, to increase that collaboration through interaction, engagement, gamification to keep me with the company. If Delta says, look, Rajiv, yes, you're joining this team and this team is going to have these team building exercises on Metaverse, where you play a game or you perform a task like for making some customers happy, right? And you work in a team, right? Maybe I get hooked to that because maybe that's what I enjoy. And as a result, I'm locked in to the Delta Airlines. And I'm saying, look, I'm not going to move for another $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 because I'm enjoying here, right? Because I don't know if I'll enjoy the same thing at a different place. So people are right now struggling to find what they like, what they enjoy. And that's why they keep moving. And that's why companies have so many openings, because they're not able to lock in these employees.
Okay. I've got 2 questions that are not connected, but I'm going to ask them both if you could answer in like 1.5 to 2 minutes. So the first question is, do you think you can have a transformative relationship with a machine? And the second question is, has Professor Garg adapted best practices in use of voice as you have evolved as a speaker based on the research that you've done?
So one of my assumptions, for the second question first, is that changing voice is very hard. I mean, that's why we have voice actors who can actually modulate and stuff. Yeah. I personally so I need to know my audience. So my voice falls under the authoritative bucket. So I'm not motivational, I'm not ostentatious, I'm not seductive in my voice. If there is an audience who is able to engage with the authoritative person, sure, I will do well. But changing my voice is going to be very hard. But now, if I can take Pam's voice, which may be ostentatious, and I say, look, Pam, I'm going to speak, but I'm going to synthesize, whatever I'm speaking, it comes out as your voice through Zoom, because technology can transform that. And yes, then that's possible if I know people in my audience will get more engaged with ostentatious voice. I could apply this, right? And this is a technology that will come out soon. It's not there yet, but it will come out soon. The second question, which is the first question you asked, and I'm sorry, I forgot.
It was, can you have a transformative relationship with a
Oh,
machine?
yes, the movie Her. So, there used to be a app called My Virtual Girlfriend. This was like 10, 12 years ago. I actually used it in my research at that time. And what I found is, so people get attracted to the technology right now because of the novelty, right? When I say transformative experience, because our norms are such that we don't expect a transformative experience with technology, we may not have it, or we may have it for now, but long-term, I don't expect that to happen because technology can only do so much because of the historical data, right? It can generate data, but again, that depends on what it has learned from the past. People will evolve, their preferences will evolve. And as a result, having the transformative experience over longer term is going to be hard.
Mm.
I'm sorry for sounding pessimistic.
That's okay. That's okay. Excuse me. So Rajiv, if you can stop your screen share, I wanted to just signal to our participants today what is coming next on our next two Business Over Breakfast sessions. So Rajiv, first, thank you so much for the fun and engaging exploration of technology and our social lives, our work lives today. And we look forward to having you back sometime. Coming up next for our Business Over Breakfast sessions on June the 1st, actually, I believe it's June the 2nd, I just realized my typo. Jesse Boxstead, who is going to be teaching the course Nicola mentioned in August, will be with us exploring AI machine learning. So how recommendation systems are shaping customer preferences. And then on June the 16th, we are welcoming back Steve Shepard to look at leadership selling, how we influence not just in a sales role, but as leaders inside the business, but also in those sales roles. And then also, as Nicola mentioned, we have some exciting opportunities coming up for you. We hope that you'll check them out on our website, or you can contact my colleague, Tammy Long, to learn more about those, especially pointing to Jesse's course, our coaching diploma program, which we have applications open for, and those extended learning courses, which are seats in our actual MBA evening and executive programs. Thanks again for joining us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you on the first and third Thursdays of each month, and especially for Jesse's session early June. Take care and have a great rest of the day. Thanks again, Rajiv.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.